There are a handful of new recruits that Louisville fans need to become familiar with. We are going to discuss all of the recent offers between the football and basketball programs on today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Let's get right on into the show.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I serve as a credentialed media member for Cardinals Sports Zone. Also do some PA announcer work for the university in various sports. I want to take this time to say thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, the Locked On Louisville podcast is free on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. As I mentioned, a handful of new offers from both the Louisville football and basketball programs. We're going to start out in the football realm where the Cardinals offered two 2023 receivers. That is Jeremiah McClure and Cataurus Hicks. In the second segment, we're going to talk about two 2024 offensive linemen, highly ranked offensive linemen that were offered, Brandon Baker and Uriah Williams. And then in the final segment, we will discuss a surprise visitor for the Louisville basketball program this week that is rising 2024 big man Gabe Grant. So a lot of new faces for Cardinal fans to become familiar with. On the football side of things, beginning with the two wide receivers that were offered recently, Jeremiah McClure and Cataurus Hicks. When the Cardinals got the commitment from William Fowles a couple weeks ago, the four-star receiver out of the Miami area, a lot of people were like, well, there goes Louisville recruiting insert player here because he's a receiver, and Louisville already has three receivers committed, and DeAndre Moore Jr., now William Fowles, and also Jaleel McClain. So we doubt they're going to take another receiver. And I was kind of sitting there like, I'll be honest with you. I think that they're going to look to recruit some more receivers. I think that they're probably at the very least going to look to add one more high school receiver to this class. Maybe look at the transfer portal because at the end of the day, as we mentioned, the depth numbers just aren't there for the wide receiver group right now. There are 8 scholarship receivers. Jalen Carter is a senior, the player that was just placed on scholarship, the former walk-on, Louisville native, former DuPont Manual High School standout. You also have guys like Braden Smith, Tyler Hudson, and D. Wiggins that could go to the league after this season. You have some younger guys like Chance Morrow and Chris Bell, and you have Josh Johnson, who I believe is a super senior. I think he has to graduate this year, or not has to graduate. I mean, has to fill out his last year of eligibility this year. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like this might be his last remaining year of eligibility. But regardless, you have to increase those numbers again because you have 8 right now, but you're probably going to lose some of those guys in the offseason to the draft, to graduation, possibly even to transfer. So you only have 3 receivers coming in right now. You have the possibility of adding in another receiver in the high school ranks, maybe looking to the transfer portal if you need to. At the end of the season, I guess they'll have a little bit more to base their decision on with another couple months of seeing what kind of happens and what dominoes fall in the 2023 recruiting trail. But 2 guys have been offered recently. The first one that we're going to talk about is 4-star wide receiver Jeremiah McClure, ranked as the 254th best prospect in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. He is the 31st best wide receiver and the 17th best in the state of California, a star of Mater Dei High School from Chula Vista, California, at 6'2", 195 pounds. This is just another testament to the coaching staff trying to continue that pipeline into the state of California, not just with the St. John Bosco stars and standouts, but also, teams from other areas as well. I mean, we're talking about, Trying to think of some other players, from I think they're recruiting some players from Centennial High School and Corona High School. And now, you have Mater Dei, and we're going to talk about Brandon Baker, the Mater Dei offensive tackle, highly ranked in the 2024 class, who they recently offered. So trying to continue that pipeline into the state of California by any means necessary, it seems. Obviously, this is kind of a new recruitment that Louisville fans aren't necessarily, caught up to speed on. But just to kind of catch you up to speed, he did have an official visit to Arizona back in June, has made a couple of unofficial visits to California and San Jose State. Got some big-time offers early on in the 2022 calendar year. Got an offer from UCLA, an offer from Tennessee, also from Utah as well. Arizona seems to be right up there. Indiana's trying to get into the mix also. So UCLA seems like they are right in the thick of things. Arizona as well, as it is with a good majority of West Coast players. It's going to be hard to contend with the geographically close West Coast schools. So Arizona and UCLA seems like the teams that would be the of the utmost competition for the Cardinals in this recruitment if they're able to get into the mix here. I feel like a broken record when I say this, and I really don't mean to come off this way, but it's going to be a matter of if you can get Jeremiah McClure on a visit, especially with the West Coast players, trying to get these guys to come across the United States to visit your program, and thus you probably have a better chance of landing them. At 6'2", just under 200 pounds, gives me kind of Dez Fitzpatrick vibes, in the fact that he is a tremendous route runner. I really enjoy watching his film, watching him dissect the defense and get behind coverages. Also, he does a good job of just flat out beating his man down the field. It seems like he has a deceptive speed about his game, has good hands, is able to high point the football with his 6'2" frame, and also just a guy that's able to make other players, other defenders miss after that first initial wave of contact and be able to create some positive yards after the catch. So that's something to focus on there. Very, very talented receiver, like I said, from the California area. The main thing for the Cardinals in this one is if they can get McClure on a visit to the Cardinals program for a game weekend in the fall. Obviously, I think that there's room for a player like McClure in this class, considering the fact that they are recruiting more wide receivers, and you're looking to, bring in more than just 3 receivers. And I think that, maybe it gets a little interesting if Deuce Robinson wants to join the mix, because I know that the Cardinals are recruiting him at wide receiver. But would it be far-fetched for me to believe that they would take both Robinson and McClure? No, it would not. I could definitely see them having a complete revamping of the wide receiver position there with the Cardinals. So, this is going to be a recruitment, like I mentioned. I'm interested to see how serious the Cardinals get in this recruitment. How much they're able to try to sway McClure to leave the West Coast. I'm interested to see what his relationship is with guys like Pierce Clarkson, Aaron Williams, John Dre Moore Jr., if there is a relationship at all between some of the current Cardinal commits and McClure, but interesting to see nonetheless. The other wide receiver that was offered, this kind of got a lot of Louisville fans talking because it's not something that we're necessarily used to in this recruiting cycle. Cataurus Hicks from Miami Central High School down in South Beach. This is a recruitment to where it kind of confused a lot of people because he's ranked as a 2-star prospect on Rivals. Has, I think, over 10 offers. The only other Power 5 offer outside of Louisville right now, I believe, is Tennessee. I know that Lance Taylor, I think he's the primary recruiter in this in the Cataurus Hicks recruitment, but it would not surprise me if Louisville, after watching, I think Stanquan Clark goes to Miami Central now. Yes, he goes to Miami Central now, and then there's also the trying to do a little bit of a fact check here to make sure that yes, okay, Ruben Bain is also a standout of Miami Central High School. Who's the highly ranked 4-star prospect defensive lineman who absolutely played phenomenal this past weekend. So I think that after watching Stanquan Clark and Ruben Bain, obviously they liked what they saw, they meaning the Cardinal coaching staff. They liked what they saw from Cataurus Hicks on the field. You can look at the rankings, you can look at the offer sheet and be like, not necessarily the greatest. I was able to watch his huddle tape, and judging based upon that, it seems like he is a very solid yards after the catch receiver, a solid route runner, has good agility and ability to make defensive backs miss, especially at the line of scrimmage. Good separation as well, 5'9", I think 160 pounds. Look, I understand that this particular recruiting cycle, Louisville fans are probably on cloud nine when it comes to how many 4-star and 5-star prospects Louisville is recruiting. But when they hear of a 2-star guy, it's like, oh, why? Well, I mean, how quickly we forget, the Cardinals program, although they haven't necessarily made their bread and butter on going out and getting lower ranked guys, they've done a great job over the years, from the Scott Satterfield era back to Charlie Strong's era to even the Bobby Petrino 1.0 and even 2.0. They've done a good job of finding diamond in the rough players in talent hotbeds like Miami, Georgia, even out west to a certain extent, through the Sunshine State, so on and so forth, to where, hey, look, I mean, it seems like the film maybe warrants a little bit of an uptick in the rankings. I think that Louisville might be on wait and see approach with this recruitment. We'll see if they push for a commitment coming up in the next couple months or so. But this is one to keep an eye out for. I think that Cataurus Hicks could rise up the rankings significantly with continuing a solid showing this season, because like I mentioned, people are going to watch Stanquan Clark and Ruben Bain, and college coaches are watching some of these standouts on defense, and they end up also kind of watching the sorry, I've got an itch in my back and I can't even reach it. That's the worst thing, trying to itch your back and you can't reach it. Regardless, sorry, it's a little rough. But like I mentioned, I think that it speaks volumes to how good that they feel that Cataurus Hicks played in the first couple weeks for Miami Central High School to feel comfortable enough with offering him and believing in his projection moving forward. So this is one to watch out for, to see how high he rises up the rankings. Scott Satterfield is no stranger to, coming into a recruitment before pretty much all other Power 5 schools. He's done it with a handful of recruits over the past couple seasons at the helm of the Louisville program, and this won't be the last time either. So an interesting recruitment to watch moving forward. But that wasn't all of the offers that the Louisville football program handed out recently. 2024 offensive line recruits were offered as well. We will discuss both of those players here in just a second after we talk about our friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check on all of your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So moving right along into discussing two recent 2024 offers from the Louisville football program, both to 4-star offensive tackles. Sorry about that. Brandon Baker, as I mentioned, highly ranked top 100 prospect out of Mater Dei High School. Also, you have Uriah Williams, a 4-star prospect out of San Marcos High School down in Texas. I hope I'm saying that right. Uri, it could be either one, might not even be either of those. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. But regardless, two highly ranked prospects. Brandon Baker, another guy that's going to be hard to take out of the West Coast, has a little bit more of a a vast recruiting profile in terms of geographical offers. Ranked as the 64th best player in the 2024 class, 6'5" offensive tackle, like I said, from Mater Dei, 285 pounds, has accepted a offer onto the Polynesian Bowl roster, so that's big to focus on. UCLA is trying to get into this recruitment as well, has gotten some big-time offers in the past couple months. Miami, Michigan, Florida, Oklahoma, Penn State, Michigan State. Look, this is going to be very, very easy to understand that a player of this caliber is going to be recruited very highly. This past year, I think it was interesting the fact that he played both left guard and right tackle, so there is the possible versatility there to play either on the interior or on the boundary as a tackle, whether that be left or right tackle. And then you also have Uriah Williams, 6'7", 320 pounds, ranked the 290th prospect in the 2024 class, 18th best offensive tackle, 43rd best in the state of Texas, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. Two-sport athlete, also competed in the shot put. Played at El Campo his freshman year, which is where Ruben Owens currently plays, but transferred to San Marcos, Texas. Due to transfer rules last year, could not play at the varsity level. So I wonder if this is going to be a recruit that rises up the rankings because we didn't see him in varsity football last year. Has a lot of big-time offers: LSU, Florida, Baylor, Houston, Texas, Texas Tech, so on and so forth, Oklahoma State. I could also see this recruitment absolutely blowing up to where we could possibly be talking about a top 200 player by this time next year. But make no mistake about it, the Cardinals are trying to not only show that they can compete with the big boys in terms of recruiting, but they're also trying to prove that, hey, look, I know that 2023 recruiting cycle isn't over yet, but it is by no means a fluke. We are going to continue to recruit this way on the 2024 cycle and beyond, to try to build this program up and also take it to new heights. They already have a commitment from Miami running back Isaac Brown, 4-star out of the South Florida area. And like I mentioned, I think every single class you are going to look to hit the offensive and defensive line recruiting hard. You know, they're going to try to build the trenches up in every class because you always have consistent changing numbers. Obviously, they have a veteran group right now in the 2022 season, but they have some younger guys that are waiting in the wings, but you have a perpetual cycle of trying to continue to recruit some of the best guys. Both of these guys, it'll be interesting to see if Brandon Baker, if he projects as more of a interior or right tackle, or and then also Uriah Williams. It'll be interesting. Like I said, I mean, offering is one thing, but in terms of being legitimately involved in these recruitments, I mean, I think that's the big question that needs to be asked. But the sole purpose of talking about these players is that, you know, Louisville is recruiting at a totally different level than they did just 9 months ago. You know, I mean, before January, before the Pierce Clarkson commitment, you know, offering these two guys would be like, okay, cool, they offered, because why wouldn't they? Now you have to think that with the types of recruits that they're getting, the highly ranked guys that they're getting, that some of these guys that they're recruiting, who knows, they may not ever really get into the mix in that respective recruitment, but there's going to be a lot of these guys that Louisville is going to get, you know, squarely into the top group and really try to sway these guys. So, you know, trying to go into California, trying to go into Texas and get some of these bigger recruits from, you know, some talent hotbeds from some of the big boy programs like your USCs, your Oregons, your UCLAs, your Texas A&M, so on and so forth, right? So this is an interesting one to focus on, or interesting two to focus on here, because it'll be interesting to see how Louisville's 2024 recruiting cycle what that timeline looks like in terms of picking up some commitments. So hopefully the case will be getting both of those players on visits for unofficials this fall to see what the city of Louisville is like. So to conclude the show, however, we are going to discuss a basketball prospect, 2024 big man Gabe Grant will be taking a visit to the Cardinals program this week. So we'll talk about that here in just a second. Obviously, if you're watching this or listening to this on certain audio streaming services, you're not going to hear the implemented advertisements. So be sure to stay tuned. But regardless, I think that moving forward for the men's basketball program, Kenny Payne has been scrutinized by a good portion of the fan base for not necessarily reeling in highly ranked prospects coming into Louisville. Payne has been on the job since I think mid-March, right after the season ended. He has gotten commitments from Devin Ree, who's just outside of the top 75, I believe. He's gotten commitments from Fabio Basili and Tennessee transfer Brandon Huntley Hatfield. He has yet to get a marquee recruit, so a lot of people are kind of confused, concerned, impatient, whatever you may have you. They also are fighting the NCAA cloud. My message to Louisville fans would just be to relax at this point and let the cake bake, so to speak, and see how these next couple months go in terms of visits and stuff like that. But it seems like he's trying to really build relationships with guys in the 2023 and especially the 2024 class. Realizing that, hey, look, it's not that early to go ahead and start to try to get some of these guys on campus to start recruiting them. Pretty significantly. One of those guys that is popping up on a lot of radars is 2024 big man Gabe Grant. Is not ranked currently, 6'10", 195-pound center from Owing Mills, Maryland. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is going to be transferring to Brewster Academy up in the Northeast, the place where Donovan Mitchell came from, obviously, and he will be visiting Louisville. I believe it's on Thursday. I could be wrong. Yes, it's on Thursday, according to Travis Brandon of 24/7 Sports. The main thing, there's not a lot of film on Gabe Grant, so it's one of those things to where you kind of just have to buy into the potential. Brandon mentions that he believes that Grant is going to be ranked here coming up soon in the next rankings. Grant said this in an article from 24/7 Sports Cardinal Authority, the Louisville site. Jody Demling writes a quote from Grant, and it says, "My game is based around energy. I don't want to let anyone outwork me, and that's how I play. Every single game, I spread the floor, I get blocks, I get rebounds, and I don't let anybody try to take that from me. I'm working on my jump shot. I'm working on driving to the basket. I'm also working on my handles and stuff like that." Doesn't have a ton of offers at this point. I don't know if he has any Power 5 offers, but listen to the programs that have reached out. Arizona State, Clemson, DePaul, Florida State, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Miami, Pepperdine, St. John's, Syracuse, Virginia, and Washington. I think he had an unofficial visit to Miami just recently. When you watch the various few videos on YouTube and things like that, you see that he's got a lot of length for his 6'10" frame, but he needs to add some more weight onto that frame. Moves really well for his size, has good instincts as a shot blocker. His frame and his instincts defensively kind of give me shades of Jackson Hayes, formerly of Texas and now with the New Orleans Pelicans. Just a guy that offensively isn't really polished at the moment, needs to refine his skill set. Maybe he's not necessarily as far along in his offensive development at this point as Jackson Hayes was, but has the athleticism, has that speed for his size, is able to move in ways that a 6'10" guy you wouldn't expect to. So that's something to focus on here. And obviously, you can't overlook or discredit the fact that you would be getting coached by Kenny Payne and Danny Manning, two former NBA draft picks and national champions that, have been revered as good developers of talent, but also for big men as well. And they have the development pedigree of getting some of those guys to the league, like Willie Cauley-Stein, Julius Randle, so on and so forth. So this will be interesting to look for. One telltale sign will be if Louisville decides to offer after the unofficial visit. I don't think I'm going to look too much into it either way, if they do or do not, considering the fact that they're probably going to monitor how he does this season, how he does in AAU circuits next spring. But this is going to be one where a lot of big-name programs are keeping an eye out on Gabe Grant because he has the physical tools, he has the athleticism, the defensive skill set, the potential and that high ceiling to really, really be solid. It's just a matter of putting that development into place from a skills perspective. So definitely one to focus on there. All of the football offers, people want to think, oh, why are you just talking about offers? Well, because at this point in time, I'm going to give the fan base all the knowledge that they need so that, hey, look, you know about some of these guys if they do plan visits, if they do include Louisville in their top 10, top 5, top 3, whatever it may be, that you've heard their names on this podcast. You've read it on some other platforms online and things of that nature. So it's just a matter of how much Louisville is going to be able to get into the mix with some of these guys. So very interested to see how Louisville is going to do in these recruitments, both from the football and basketball perspective. There's going to be 2 more episodes coming out here recently before Thursday. We're going to go into depth on the Syracuse matchup coming up. But until then, that's going to wrap up this first edition of the day, or last edition, depending on when you listen to this. But we will see you back here very, very